In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, the intensifying brawl within the House Intelligence Committee. Today, Chairman Devin Nunes and Ranking Member Adam Schiff escalated their war of words over the possible unmasking of Trump transition team members by U.S. intelligence agencies.
These reports that I read, for the most part, are valuable intelligence. However, I think there are just questions in those reports that I wonder does reach that threshold of foreign intelligence, and then you have to ask why were names unmasked. Not a full validation or vindication of the president, not a partial validation of the president, a zero validation of the president, even if you accept what the chairman has said.
Joining us now with more from Washington, Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Now, Catherine, there were some big developments today, specifically about them talking about, Nunes talking about bringing back James Comey and Admiral Rogers, I think on Monday, right?
Well, that's right. What they confirmed today, Eric, is that they are recalling the FBI director and the NSA director, and they're recalling them for a hearing on Tuesday, and it's going to be a closed, private briefing. It will not be open to the public. In order to make that happen, they have canceled a previously scheduled hearing with former Obama administration officials and the Deputy Attorney General. That's going to come at a later date. But to kind of decode it for folks at home based on these new documents, the Republican chairman wants to get more answers from the FBI director and the NSA director whose agency does surveillance before he then puts his questions to these former Obama administration officials who really have inside knowledge about what they were doing at that time.
Okay, so, and you point out that this is a closed-door meeting. Why is it closed door? I mean, what, they feel like they'll get more information if it's behind closed doors?
Yeah, they're going to get more information, plus the level at which they're talking is at a classified level, and very little would be unclassified. I specifically asked the Republican chairman today if he was recalling the FBI director because he felt his testimony this week had not been forthcoming. He said no, it's based on the new records and it needs to be in a classified setting because they're so sensitive.
Okay, and very quickly I got to go, but will these Clapper, Brennan, et cetera meetings, those will be where we can all hear the way they're answering?
Well, that's a good question, too. The original plan was to have them publicly testify, and that was going to be next week. That is now going to be rescheduled, and it's not clear, at least based on our reporting, whether that may be private, too. It's going to depend a lot on what comes out of that hearing Tuesday, so you're going to have to watch and wait.
Oh, absolutely, Catherine.
Okay.
It's actually the best TV out there, best reality TV you can think of. Catherine, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's bring in from Washington, Jillian Turner, a former national security staffer, along with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Okay, let's unpack this. Tony, let's start with you. Yeah. Let's unpack this a little bit. Sure. There seems to be a lot of misinformation, disinformation, who knows what going back and forth behind closed-door meetings.
Right.
When are we going to get to the bottom of this, of all of it?
Well, first, you know, it's ironic now, Eric, if you look back, no one on the Democrat side was raising Cain when all the unvetted information from that British source was put out there. Let's just get that as a framer. With that said, Eric, there's a lot of sensitive methods and capabilities now being discussed behind closed doors. And as Catherine said, they're going to do two things. And I've been in closed hearings. Closed hearings allows you to disclose up to the logical classification level, not everything, but up to a level of what the methodology was used, and not only that, what the authorities were exactly. I've run these sorts of operations, and let me tell you something. You know, 10 years ago, when
Colonel, let me ask you, does that mean they can say who unmasked General Flynn's name?
Absolutely. It'll be that level, because it'll go down to exactly which keystroke unmask which name, which tells you exactly who struck that keystroke. More importantly, we're talking about even if that was authorized, Eric, if you take on the face of it that this collection was authorized, which I think is questionable, then have to figure out who authorized the unmasking, and more importantly, who then authorized the wide dissemination, which is the biggest issue, because that was leaked to the New York Times.
Colonel, let me bring Jillian. So, and I agree, Jillian, that a lot of this, the actual surveillance may have been legal, may have been legal, but it's the leaking and the unmasking that I think they're going to end up having a big problem explaining.
Yeah, that's the key. That's because even if, you know, intelligence on President Trump and his communications personally got swept up incidentally in foreign intelligence collection, is still, as you say, perfectly legal. The problem here is you can't designate people by their names. You can't give their identities and then circulate this stuff around the intelligence community. That's what we're going to have to deal with here. So we're really, with this whole issue, this whole debacle, coming back to the problem of we got to tamp down on the leaks. National security leaks are a crime, and somebody's got to start really holding people's feet to the fire.
Right. And there's a lot of news that keeps pumping out. Colonel, I want to do this. I'm going to set this up a little bit. So Adam Schiff is the Democrat on the panel who felt like he went a little bit too far. I'm going to play a little soundbite.
Sure.
Tell me what you think about this, specifically about evidence and what he has. Listen.
There is more than circumstantial evidence now, so again, I think...
So you have seen direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is evidence that is not circumstantial and is very much worthy of investigation.
And, Colonel, the reason why that's important, there are two types of evidence. There's circumstantial and there's direct, meaning I saw it. I know it happened specifically. He says it's not circumstantial. Is he saying he's got a smoking gun?
Yes, that's what he's saying, but then again, this has been managed by innuendo. This has been death by a thousand cuts of innuendo. Eric, let's remember that every time this is leaked to the other side, to the other media, it's always anonymous sources. Look, several of us have gone on record on your network and others and said, look, people like, we believe Jim Clapper and John Brennan were probably the ones leaking this, and it's like it's time for the folks who have the so-called smoking gun to cough it up. And so it's time, long past time, for that to happen. And Eric, as we've stipulated here, this is, in my judgment, a MacGuffin. The old term of MacGuffin, the throwaway in Hollywood, where you get, that's what this is. They don't want to talk about the fact that someone's going to get caught, that probably has gotten caught, unmasking and disseminating information illegally.
Jillian, James Clapper. Clapper is a guy who testified in front of a Senate panel saying that there was no mass data mining of the American people under oath, and he had to walk that back. Tell me, are we going to have another one of these?
It's unfortunate, and that's what we're dealing with again now. It's like, is our government spying on us? It's a very basic civil liberties, civil rights question. People understandably want to have it answered. I just want to point out, though, I think that we can't only point out fouls on the Democratic side. I think what Chairman Nunes did by going direct to President Obama on some of this stuff, regardless of what it was about, the content is not relevant. I think that was more than a process foul. I think that was really a bad move. I just want to point it out because I think, you know, in the interest of being fair and balanced.
I got to go. President Trump, you mean, going to President Trump. Well, we're going to leave it right there, Jillian and Tony. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
All right.